Calaroga Shark Media.
Hi, I'm Johnny Mack with a podcast called Daily Comedy News, but I got to be honest, I've been doing this, it'll be 5 years next week, and this might be the slowest news day I've seen, other than something like Christmas or something. Now, normally when I put together the show, I'll Google words like comedy and comedian. There's a couple websites I hit. I went through all that. I have one real story for you, and the rest is filler. Another thing I'll do is I'll give you an example. So last week there were a bunch of articles about Sam Morril. Sometimes I'll take half the article and I'll take the other half and I'll push it into the future because you don't want to hear me talking about the same comedians every day. So I'll take, say, half the Sam Morril article and put it 3 weeks from now on a weekend and use that to pad out a weekend episode. But for today, I've got one real story, and I had to pull everything else up. I'll walk you through it as we do it. The big news over the weekend, I don't know if you heard, President Biden not running for re-election. Now, as I record this on Monday afternoon, nobody from late night has done a show yet. John Oliver got caught with his pants down. They pretty openly record last week tonight on Saturday night, and the news broke Sunday at about 1:46 p.m. Eastern. So Oliver got stuck with this immediately dated show before it even airs. Ouch, I feel your pain. As for me, I was in the pool at 1:45 and I came out and I checked my phone and I saw the news and I was like, oh, I have to get to work. And I got to work on the Ballot podcast. So if you would like some snarky late night commentary, check out Ballot wherever you get your shows. From a comedy standpoint, Jon Stewart put out a one-sentence statement that said legend. And the other thing everyone's talking about is Maya Rudolph hypothetically returning to SNL to play Kamala Harris. I think that would be a smart 6-week sprint for both the show and Maya. All right, the one piece of actual news on Saturday night, Jon Stewart and Dave Chappelle did a show together at the Apollo Theater. And I was stunned to see this because I do prep this show. Maybe there'll be a day where I don't jump on the internet, like Saturday I went to the beach. But I pretty much keep up on everything 6 days a week anyway. And Chappelle is definitely a name I Google daily to see if there's any news. I saw nothing of this, but they played Harlem's Apollo Theater on Saturday night. Like any show involving Chappelle, yonder pouches, put your phone away and all that, but somebody has reported on it. The Hollywood Reporter said Jon Stewart was in great form as he dropped his unfiltered and very funny takes on Biden's debate performance and candidacy and Trump's Trumpiness. And the Hollywood Reporter writes, there's something about that moment when Dave Chappelle grabs a mic, stands or sits on stage before a live audience and just riffs. Some of the best gags of the night came early in his set when he explained that fame is like running up a hill with bullets constantly whizzing past your ear, a reference to Trump's recounting of the assassination attempt. And he joked about Sean Combs saying, oh, they got Puff Daddy, in a reference to Mr. Combs' legal issues, which include accusations of assault and sex trafficking. Some of Chappelle's topics, we're told, included Trump, Biden, fame, Ohio's men, and Gaza. On politics, Chappelle pointed out how the entire process is a snake eating its own tail. He also joked that 2024 is the first year that white voters got to feel as hopeless about no good candidates as blacks do every year. THR says the set grew unpredictable at times, with Chappelle shouting back at hecklers who had beefs with Dave. I wonder what that's about. Hopefully more will come about that. I wonder if that's about Gaza, or why would you accidentally wind up at the Apollo Theater seeing Dave Chappelle if you don't like Dave Chappelle? The two comics were on stage together to close out the show. No details on what they talked about there. As I mentioned, slow news day. I pulled some stories up from future weekends. David Cross spoke to Entrepreneur Magazine about staying motivated, and Cross said, sometimes it's tough. I'm tired. We were out until 2 in the morning, and we had to get up and go to Spokane and make a connecting flight to Oklahoma City, and you don't get in till late, and it's just been eating Fritos. But I mean, it's professionalism. You have to figure out how to get yourself ready to go, whether it's doing a bunch of push-ups or whatever. One thing I pride myself on is I give 100% every time I'm up there, and even if the crowd sucks, which doesn't happen that much anymore, I always imagine a 16-year-old kid in the balcony who's at his first comedy show. That's stolen from Joe DiMaggio. Joe DiMaggio said that. There might be a kid who's seeing me play for the first time. I know your tricks, David Cross. Cross says all he or she wants to do is stand up. I want to do the show for that kid because I was that kid at one point. As for taking criticism, Cross says, the people whose criticism I always listen to are my wife, Amber, Bob Odenkirk, and a handful of people, including John Benjamin. When they give me a compliment, I know it's not BS, and I know it comes from an intellectual place, but some people like my stuff way too much, and some people just hate my stuff. I try not to listen to those extremes. If the criticism is something like, you're offensive, or you shouldn't talk about that, those things aren't really criticisms. But if somebody has a critical take on a bit and I can see their point and where they're coming from, that's a criticism I'll take and acknowledge. Whether I choose to do anything about it, it's a different story. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. He also cleared up any confusion about the end times. David Cross said, aliens are not going to be the cause of the apocalypse. We're in a very, 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 very slow yet absolutely real apocalypse. Apocalypse doesn't necessarily mean a bunch of fireballs descend on planet Earth and in 7 seconds we're wiped out. No, we're going through the apocalypse right now in real time. My plan? Go out on tour, sell some merch, and then just invest in fresh water. The Hollywood Reporter had done a roundtable with a bunch of comedians, and they were asked, do you guys have a third rail? Taylor Tomlinson said, I don't do jokes about people in my family or friends of mine or people I'm dating without running it past them because I just don't think it's worth destroying relationships for 90 seconds. When I was 21, I was like, burn it all down to be a legend. But then you get older and you're like, oh, I'm alone. Mike Birbiglia told the Hollywood Reporter in his 20s he wanted to be a star. Then at 30, I was given my own sitcom at CBS, and they shot the pilot, and Bob Odenkirk, by the way, if you're playing Bob Odenkirk bingo today, drink, played my brother, and Nick Kroll played my cousin, and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. And then by the time it went through the factory, that is the studios and the networks, it just wasn't my life. It wasn't my creative vision, and it didn't get picked up to air. And thank God I went back to New York. I made Sleepwalk with Me. Nathan Lane put his name and reputation behind it, and it changed my life. Atsuko Akatsuko was recently in Manila. She rode a jeepney for the first time during her visit. In an Instagram post, she shared a video of that experience and said, what's up, guys? I'm in a jeepney. That's pretty much their public transportation, a bus. You ever been in a bus where the windows are all open hole? You ever been in a bus there's a hole in the back? Welcome to the Philippines. She compared the jeepney to a roller coaster that's more than just a ride and said, this is like a roller coaster, except it gets you to work. Come on, how fun is that? Slow news day, John? Slow news day, listener. So this would have been the lead story. It was David Letterman was scheduled to do a fundraiser for Joe Biden. I guess he's not going to do it anymore unless he's doing it for Harris or other candidate. The Martha's Vineyard Gazette had announced the event is part of the Biden Victory Fund as President Biden makes his bid for a second term later this year. Invites to the event hinged on donations of $2,500 to $25,000. Interesting that Letterman was going to do that, and I assumed now it's not happening. I'll let you know if I hear more. As I deep dove looking for things to tell you about today, I typed the words Adam and Sandler into Google, and I'm kind of glad I did because I saw this one from film critic Mick LaSalle in the San Francisco Chronicle, who was doing a Q&A, and one of the Qs asked him about Mr. Sandler, and film critic Mick LaSalle from the SF Chronicle said, I used to think Adam Sandler was one of the worst things on earth. Not just one of the worst actors or comedians, but one of the worst things, period. Now, let me clear something up. A lot of people think I am secretly Mick LaSalle from the San Francisco Chronicle. I'm not. We are two different people with apparently the same opinion. Mick said, not just one of the worst actors or comedians, but one of the worst things, period. Not quite up there with the most horrible things like war or famine, but still one of those awful nuisances that are impossible to escape, like the flu. But then there's a twist. Mick LaSalle, San Francisco Chronicle film critic, writes, but I started liking him with Click. With Click? And my positive opinion of him was solidified by funny people and just go with it. In retrospect, I must have, at least in part, been wrong about the guy, but he also changed. He went from being a comic to the person who gets laughed by reacting to other people being funny. His talent is not to be Lou Costello, but to be Bud Abbott. He's an excellent straight man, maybe the best out there. One of the not-so-great aspects of being a film critic is being forced to watch movies made by people you don't like. But the flip side is that seeing everything allows you to not get stuck in an opinion. I don't know about that. I mean, Adam Sandler movies are inherently terrible, except for Uncut Gems, the basketball one, what's that called? Hustle. The Spaceman one that came out last year wasn't terrible, and the ones with Drew Barrymore. Everything else, complete garbage. Frankie French's new special is out today. It's called Let Me Be Frank, with a Q at the end there. You'll find it on YouTube. The description, we've all heard tales of just how unpredictable and wild the Big Apple can be, and New Yorker Frankie French fully embraces that in her new special Let Me Be Frank, particularly when she weaves a colorful yarn about a man, I guess I could say this, pleasuring himself, whatever you think that means. Maybe he was having a slice of pizza and going, this is good. I'm glad I bought myself a slice of pizza. Anyway, whatever the man's doing, he was doing it on the subway. You shouldn't eat on the subway. I mean, that's something, just do it in a restaurant where it belongs. Frank's emphatic delivery and keen comedic timing bring her jokes to the next level, and it sure doesn't hurt that she's got an amazing singing voice as well. And that's what passes for your comedy news today. Hopefully we'll have something tomorrow. Now, what's good for me is, as stretchy as that was, I didn't burn my Sam Morril story, so I'll save that for another rainy day. See you tomorrow. Go listen to Ballot. Bye.